All right, we are returning to public session from executive session. If you'll please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we're going to start off with our consent agenda. We have minutes of December 5th, December 16th, and December 19th.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes from December 5th, 16th, and 19th as presented in the packet.
All right, I'll give the committee members just a moment to review those and let me know if there's any comments. And I'll need a second.
I'll be the second.
Well, this is very minor, but I was present actually, electronically. Tried meeting, there just was no way that I could talk, but I was listening to all of it.
Okay. So we can change that to remote. Any other comments? All right, are we ready to vote? Yeah. All right. Mr. Hicks?
Yes.
Mr. Moskovich?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Those are approved. All right. And then I don't believe we have any grants?
No grants.
Okay. We'll move on to communications. We have our student representative report. We have 3 of our student representatives with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Okay, starting off, Scarlet Night practices have started. Oh, sorry. The Scarlet Night practices have started. This year's candidates are Elizabeth Lane and Michael Foucher, sorry if I butcher anyone's names, Nathan Sullivan and James Yonchak, Riley Knapp and Reese McGinnis, Joanna Baya and Abike Kalivieva, Ramses Morel and Javiani Mateus Ortega, Josh Pelletier and Danon Martin, Lizzie Hawes and Nate Perlmutter, Gabby Locke and Carson Wong, and the Master of Ceremonies is Thomas Lynch and Maya Matsuranis. The Student Council is also preparing for the Association of Student Councils annual conference at Hyannis. College commitments and acceptances are coming in, and eating in the high school has been restricted to the cafeteria.
Yeah. Seal of Biliteracy tests are going on for the majority of the language departments. The semester is ending on January 24th. Winter sports are continuing to host dual meets and tournaments. And environmental is hosting a coat drive. The bathrooms have officially reopened, and phase 2 of bathrooms with center bathrooms reopened during passing periods have a couple of exceptions for behavior if bathrooms are used inappropriately. So any students loitering will be subject to school consequences per student handbook. There's 1 student per stall rules, and involvement in misuse or damage of bathrooms will result in major consequences.
Auditions for Drama Fest happened on Tuesday with the cast list coming out today. College Bound Junior Night was hosted on Tuesday. The NHS is still selling chocolate for $2 per bar. And the first annual Golden Plate Awards Coffee House is happening on January 24th at the NHS cafeteria at 6 p.m. There will be comedy and some awards, and there's a semi-formal dress code. And the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship Breakfast was on the 8th. Students and families of recipients were invited to attend, and scholarships were awarded based on students' MCAS scores. And the NHS Knights Locker is running low on basic necessities and is looking for donations.
When you say basic necessities, what kind of things are they looking for donations?
It's things like deodorant and some basic clothing items.
And where can people drop those off?
I know that there's a link in the principal's update that was sent out to families about a week ago. I'm not sure where else the link is. But.
Okay.
When is the Scarlet Knight competition?
I think
started
it's March 20...
In March.
March 20-something.
March 20-something.
March
March,
20-something.
late March.
Late March.
It seems odd that you would share that we're only eating in the cafeteria. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So sometimes students like to stay and work in like teachers' classrooms to get extra help during lunchtime, whatnot. Or eat in the choir room, hang out with friends there. But there's been a mice problem. So
Scarlet Night is on March 14th.
oh,
Mid-March.
So mid-March.
And I was not able to attend, and I am deeply, deeply sad about this. How was Cinderella?
Beautiful.
Cinderella was a lot of fun. All three nights had good showings, and the cast was very pleased with how it went. We were also, we entered into the Sondheim Awards and award show for, I believe it's the Northeast region, or else it might just be Massachusetts, where a bunch of schools enter their performances and they're adjudicated. So we also were entered into that.
Do they watch a video or?
No, we had, there was an adjudicator in the audience. Our director did not tell us which show or where they were sitting, but there
It wasn't me,
someone
I
that-
promise.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, anything else? Thank you so much. We really appreciate all the updates that you provided. And the updates with the bathroom, those were things that were decided on with student council and agreements that came upon with through discussions, right?
yeah.
Yes. Okay, good, good. And that's working out so far?
Wonderfully.
Yeah, for the most part.
Good. All right, good to hear. All right. As always, we love for you to stay. If at any point during the meeting you would like to excuse yourselves, you are more than welcome to. Okay? All right. All right, so I just want to go over, before we get into the next section, we're going to talk a little bit about the working session recap that the school committee had last week. Ms. Lathrop's going to be presenting that. I just want to address the fact that when we're talking about our FY26 budget, it does not have anything to do with the deficits that we had in FY24 or FY25. FY26 is a completely separate issue. FY26 is about receiving a budget and living within our means. The past deficits are not affecting the FY26 budget. So I just want to make that clear. So we're going to do a recap of the working session, and then we're going to go into public comment. The agenda does not include any discussion on the FY26 budget. So I just want to make that very clear. That will occur when we have the budget presentation on January 21st, and that will be in the high school auditorium to be able to accommodate as many people as we can. And that at that time, the school committee will have a full discussion on the budget options that will be presented. After the 21st presentation, we will have a public hearing on January 30th. On February 1st, we're going to have a school committee chat, so that will be an opportunity, again, for some public to speak with a couple members of the school committee. And on February 6th, thank you, we'll have our vote for the budget that will be moved forward to the Select Board and Finance Committee. I just want to make a few comments on our public comment policy. Speakers will be allowed up to 3 minutes. They must begin by stating their name and address. We ask that you please Do not use a school address as your home address. If you would not like to disclose your home address, your town is perfectly fine. You don't have to. We would like to know if you're a teacher or if you're a parent, just so that we can help know where that feedback is coming from. It's just helpful for us to know who we're hearing from. All remarks should be addressed through the chair, not to other committee members or to any of the administration. All right, with that, I will open it up to public comment. Mr. Hicks is going to be keeping time only for the fact that we want to make sure that we hear as many
Sorry,
comments.
Madam Chair.
The working session recap.
Working session.
I'm sorry.
Recap was first.
You're right. I was so excited to hear all the comments. Okay.
About that, but just there's probably some room in the back.
There in the
Okay. I don't know how else we can get
Okay.
more.
I know there are a few people that are still outside. If you hear us, there is a little bit of room in the back. We might be able to put some chairs up front, but okay, you're good? All right.
Okay. All right.
They are welcome to come in.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Ms. Lathrop.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to give a recap of the budget working session. The working session was on January 2nd, and as a reminder, the working session was an opportunity for the school committee to hear some of the things that the leadership team had been working on, and for the school committee to provide some direction to the leadership team in terms of preparation for the budget. So when preparing for the budget, we always keep in mind the district improvement plan. We have 3 main goals this year. We're working on high quality instructional materials, deepening our learning and equity. Our second goal is on the multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS, and equity, and that is talking about Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 education, and that we're making sure that our students are receiving the appropriate amount of support that they need, and that all support can be provided both within the classroom and outside and other small group settings. And our last goal is around budget and equity in terms of the budget. We reviewed the budget directives on my right side. You see the budget directives. That was something that was worked on together between leadership and school committee, and ultimately the school committee created the budget directives that they sent forth. Some of the ones that we were highlighting or looking at as we were working on some preliminary ideas for the budget, we're creating a budget operating within the allotted budget amount to capture and document necessary fund allocation and accurate spending practices for future planning and budget versus actual tracking. Our class sizes, we were given a range that was changed from before, so our class size range was 18 to 27. We were asked to reduce but not eliminate programs, and we were asked to maintain professional learning opportunities for our educators. I shared that we have been charged with preparing a level service budget. I don't have a number yet of what a level service budget will be for us. That will be presented at the next school committee meeting. But keeping in mind that a level service budget is really moving forward with the things that you have this year, FY25, and moving them into FY26. I also shared the proposed budget number that we have received from the town manager. So that number is $64,804,000. That comes from the percent overage of this year's budget, which was 2.75. That was a total of $63,771,406. Additionally, the town manager moved the Medicaid money into our budget, which was an additional $334,000, and the tri-board, so the finance committee, the select board, and the school committee voted to take the $700,000 that was in reserve for middle school staffing due to the renovations at the middle school and move that into our budget, giving us a latitude to use that for something other than the middle school if we see fit. And that brought our total guidance to $64,804,000, which is a 4.42 increase over FY25. So knowing that, we also looked at that our level service budget, I am projecting, is going to become in higher than the $64,804. So we are projecting that it will come in at at least $4 million. So our target, what we started looking at and working with, was a reduction of $4 million in order to meet the guidance of $64,804,000. The way we started to approach that, because as you can imagine, $4 million is a lot of money, is looking at the amount of students that we have in our school and what that would be per student, and dividing that up among our schools, from ABECC to our elementary schools, North Andover Middle School, the high school, and Scarlet Knight Academy. This slide shows the amount of money that each school would have to reduce in order to match the reduction of $4 million. We took a look at the enrollment that we have, our enrollment trends. So this slide shows that our enrollment has been decreasing, and it also shows that slightly our staffing has been increasing. This was just important information for us to know when thinking about the planning for the budget and keeping the budget directives in mind. So we shared what our schools would be doing in order to meet the budget number that we asked them to, their reduction we asked them to meet. So the North Andover Middle School, their budget reduction was $901,000, or is $901,250. From the reductions they've been able to make thus far, these are again not decisions, but these are ways that we were looking for guidance. We look at a savings of $886,000. So what that would mean is a reduction between 8 to 10 teachers and staff. We include staff because this looks at both classroom teachers and support staff within the building, and some shifting in some of our positions. The impacts to the middle school would be larger class sizes and a reduction of some of the programs that are offered at North Andover Middle School. North Andover High School's reduction was $1,148,000. The reductions that we have been able to propose thus far are $957,000. At the high school, that's looking at a reduction of between 7 to 9 teachers or staff, again shifting in some positions, a reduction in our athletic budget. The impacts would be larger class sizes and, again, reduce some of our programs. What we didn't show in that first slide, in terms of looking at the reduction of $4 million, is what it also might look like in terms of central office and technology. But central office and technology also took a look at reductions. So at, that cost center is looking at a $224,000 reduction. This would eliminate and shift some positions in central office. And we also would propose, again, the bring your own device for grades 6 through 12. So that's the Chromebook.
I'm going to interrupt you for one moment. It seems that this may not be streaming to CAM. Are there any issues with this being streamed?
We're having some technical issues right now. Brian's back to the studio trying to fix them. We're working on it.
Are we recording?
We are recording, yeah.
So at the very least, we'll be able to rebroadcast.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Continue? Okay. So again, central office is to shift or eliminate positions, and then in technology, looking at bring your own devices for grades 6 through 12. So that's the Chromebook. We did talk about that last year, but we wouldn't be providing Chromebooks for grades 6 through 12. We looked at our individual school budgets and took a reduction there as well, and then that reduction is $82,129, and we made our school budgets, gave them a per pupil spending for each of the costs, each of the schools, so K-5, middle school, and high school. In the elementary work, we looked at two options. Option one was by reducing the spending by the school. So you see we have our schools listed there and what the reduction would be. So ABECC has more student staff than that, but that's looking at the kindergarten students only. And then option two would be restructuring from 6 to 5 schools, raising class sizes at all schools, and reducing programming across all schools. We moved forward with looking at that, making those reductions, looking at option 2. And in option 2, it looks at 18 to 20 teachers and staff, and this is reduction at all schools. So this is taking into effect the class class sizes in that 18 to 27 range, and those 18 to 20 teachers would come from all elementary schools. A temporary closing of the Kittredge School, and a shift in positions. The impacts would be a larger class size across the district. So our class sizes, if this happens, would go from 19 to 27. Currently, our range is 14 to 25. We would reassign our Kittredge students, and we would reduce some programs. The rationale for closing of Kittredge is would be allow for greater flexibility in the placement and design of the new building. We are continuing forward with the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, in our partnership to build a new Kittredge School. This would allow for us to build the Kittredge School on a site other than what is currently proposed. If the school was taken down earlier, we have more flexibility in putting the school in a location that, quite honestly, could be better for the students and for the surrounding neighbors, as well as changing the footprint inside the school to match some of the needs that were identified by staff and community. Also in the rationale is addressing our financial constraints and creating equitable class sizes. So some of the options that we looked at when we were talking about closing a school, was creating K-2 and 3-5 schools. So that's looking at a partnership. So some schools would be K-2 in our district, some schools would be 3-5. So potentially you might go to the Thompson School for K-2, and then you would go to the Franklin School for 3-5. Shifting all of the Kittredge students to Atkinson School. Shifting Kittredge students to ABECC for just K-2, and shifting the Kittredge students to Atkinson for grades 3 through 5. Shifting the Kittredge students to Sargent, distribute the Kittredge students to all other elementary schools, looking at where there may be some openings, or shifting the kindergarten students to the ABECC, and create all of our schools to K-5 schools. Ultimately, we did, from the work that we have been doing so far, we talked about at the working session the shifting of the Kittredge students to the Sargent School. This slide shows the totals from what the work that the elementary schools have done, middle school, high school, school budgets, and central office. So our target was $4 million. This is a reduction of $4,094,129. The next steps from that meeting were to have some direction from the school committee. At that meeting, the school committee asked us to further explore the option of moving the Kittredge students to Sargent. They asked us to go back to our leaders, our elementary leaders, and ask them to further explore the individual dollar amount at each of their schools and what that might look like. And they asked us to also re-examine other options other than just the moving Kittredge students to the Sargent School. There's a school committee meeting tonight to hear from public comment. The budget presentation will be January 21st. There's a budget hearing on January 30th and a budget vote on February 6th.
All right. Thank you. And just to reiterate what a working session is for the school committee, that's an opportunity for the school committee. We're not able to discuss these things in private. All these conversations with the school committee have to have been in public. So a working session is where we get together, where we get down with the numbers, where we throw out ideas. That was an open public meeting. Many members of the public did attend that, just so there's an understanding of what that working session entailed. It's just, again, a collaboration of ideas of how are we going to make this budget work, and where do we need to go from here before budget presentations. Given that, we will open it up for public comment. Again, we're going to limit it to 3 minutes just so we can hear from as many people as we possibly can. So Mr. Hicks will be keeping time, and the microphone is open.
Yes, we lost our microphone chair.
Tony Delmonico, Amesbury, Massachusetts. I'm a North Andover High School educator. Actually, that's
you need to talk into the microphone.
microphone.
In order, yeah, sorry.
I'm a North Andover High School educator, Fine Arts Department. Just take a moment to acknowledge this vintage piece of attire I'm wearing. Originally, my name is a Kittredge kangaroo, and I'm proud to say that I drew the first Kittredge kangaroo. Why he has boxing gloves is a tale for another time. And I'm not here to tell stories of my childhood, but I just want to forewarn that that kangaroo still has his gloves on, and I will be fighting for that school. Tonight, I really just wanted to share with you a cautionary tale. When I was hired in 2006, we were undergoing a contentious NEASC accreditation review. And at the time, I had 35 kids in a class. Unbeknownst to me, the school had been stripped back quite a bit years prior. And I was part of an effort of new hires to rebuild what the school was. I'll never forget the words of the accreditation spokesperson when that was over, when they said that despite the best efforts of North Andover High School educators, we cannot recommend accreditation at this time. The cuts that are being proposed will take us back to that point, I fear. We have built legacy programs at that school, and I ask you to please reconsider the budget recommendations of the Finance Committee, the Select Board, and the Town Manager. Thank you.
Okay, for those who don't know me, my name is Julia Darmon, and I'm a North Andover resident, NAMS World Language teacher, and president of the North Andover Teachers Association. At last Thursday's meeting, I was alarmed to hear of a proposed plan to cut staff and programs across all district schools. This proposal includes at least 40 staff cuts, the possible closure of Kittredge School for 3 years, and increased class sizes and program reduction at all levels. The impact on our children will be devastating. Kittredge School serves 221 students, over 24% of whom are children with disabilities. 5% are English language learners, and 15% are low income. The repercussions for these students and all students will be severe. Currently, the district has 584 educators and education support professionals serving more than 4,500 students. Cutting 40 educators is unreasonable, unwise, and by our accounting, unnecessary. Many veteran teachers, myself included, have lived, just like he said, through this before. In the early 2000s, similar cuts resulted in overcrowded classrooms and a one-size-fits-all approach to education. Our students deserve better. Underfunding our schools will have a lasting negative impact on our children, our community, and future generations. North Andover has the means to fully fund our schools. Over the past 5 years, our union's financial analysis of municipal finances points to consistent surpluses in local tax receipts and subsequently large free cash reserves. The town has been under its tax levy capacity, including more than $1.8 million last year alone. In addition to North Andover's sizable stabilization funds, the town has also received significant increases in Chapter 70 education aid, which covers about 16.5% of the school's total budget. The North Andover Teachers Association completely opposes aligning with the town's recommended budget and the proposed cuts and school closures. We encourage the school committee to exercise its autonomy and authority as duly elected representative of the community and pass a budget that meets the need of our students. You are not appointed to be here. You are all elected. And you promised to do what would be best for the children of this town. You speak with the voices of the people. Please use them. And use them loudly and passionately. Please. I know what we are asking you is not easy at this moment. However, our children are depending on you, all of you. Please. The only resource North Andover is lacking right now is political will. The political will to stand to some ideologies in this town who care more about fixing potholes than granting our children a bright future. Educators, caregivers, and students will not sit back and will speak up. We urge you all to speak up as well. Please. To that end, we ask all community members interested in saving our schools to attend a public forum on January 29 at 6:30 at North Andover High School to learn more about why we believe these cuts are not only wrong and short-sighted, but also unnecessary. I invite everyone to please attend. Please come. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Ilir Kavai. I reside on Salem Street here in North Andover. I have two children, one in kindergarten, one in third grade at Sargent. I am here as a very upset parent. My wife is very upset. All of our parent friends in North Andover are extremely upset. We moved to this town specifically because of its schools, its education system. Most, if not all, of those who we know and are friends with moved here in the last 4 to 6 years because of the school system. Studies show over and over and over again that increased class sizes equate into lower education for the students. It affects the students drastically. I'll give you two concrete examples. I grew up in an Eastern European country in communism. Our class sizes were 35 to 40 students. The bottom half of the class, nobody cared. There weren't enough teachers to pay attention. My son, my oldest son in third grade, his class size right now is 23 students. When we first moved here, he was in first grade. We went from 14 students to 22 here at Sargent. He had a very difficult time adjusting that first semester because of the increase in school size and decrease in teachers' aides. Both my wife and I oppose this. We urge everyone to work together. We are in a very wealthy town. We have a very high tax base. I'm here also as a taxpayer, as a voting taxpayer, to urge all of you to fight so that teachers don't get fired, class sizes don't get increased. There's another aspect to all of this that needs to be considered, and I can tell you this as a professional in its specific field. I'm an employment attorney. When you lay off those school teachers, do they have contracts? Are they tenured? Do those contracts have to be paid out? Are they going to sue? And then the school district is going to incur hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees to defend those lawsuits? I understand there's a CBA, but I do this for a living. I would caution the schools strongly in reducing the body of the teachers, especially if they're tenured. Again, both my wife and I will, and her name is Kendra, urge you strongly to vote against this budget if you have any say to fight against it, to retain the class sizes, to reduce the class sizes, and to help the teachers, not fire them. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Courtney Ahern. I live in East Kingston, New Hampshire, and I have been a library media specialist in North Andover since 2015. Additionally, when I was hired, I was the only library media specialist for the 5 elementary schools at that time. We librarians are good at working within a budget. I have yet to meet a librarian who cannot conjure some magical resource or event out of a decent Wi-Fi connection and a box of Oreos. I have heard quite a lot about this proposed budget and the 2 plans set forth by Superintendent Lathrop to work within this budget. I believe she has done a remarkable job, leaving no stone unturned, and has created 2 plans that are realistic reflections of what our schools could reasonably do with a budget of that size. I also believe that the budget is grossly inadequate for our school district. We are the proverbial frog in the pot, as I see it. With each new budget cut, with each attempt to save more money, we are slowly being boiled alive. If this budget is approved, I have no doubt that every single teacher in North Andover will do their utmost to make it work, to ensure that their students' experience in school remains unchanged. The teachers who remain will rationalize, economize, and generally make do. And that is the problem. If we begin to make do with less, we leave our students woefully underprepared for the educational expectations of being a human in the 21st century. Fewer computers at the elementary schools have led to a drastic decrease in typing practice for all students. Who knows what consequences may arise from that, as all of our tests are now digital. Fewer teachers in classrooms and larger class sizes will mean less differentiated, individualized instruction for our students who most need it. Year to year, we have seen an increase in students who cannot thrive in conventional classrooms. I can't begin to contemplate what that reality might look like in just a few years. If this becomes the norm, if the temperature of the water rises and the money put aside for running our school district remains at this derisory sum, North Andover's children will end up paying the real price. I will leave you with the phrase that is often repeated in schools at teachers who feel particularly despondent about their working conditions or the superhuman expectations put upon them. Remember your why. Your why, as the school committee, is to advocate for our schools. Your why is to stand up to the town and tell them what our schools need to be successful. Your why is ensuring that the children of North Andover have access to all that a 21st century education would. Otherwise, all you'll have are mouse-infested buildings and a dead frog in a pot. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shannon Gately, and I am a parent of a son at Kittredge School. And I have a letter here that has been collaborated with many of the parents at Kittredge. We have come together to present this message to you, that with the notice of the potential closure at Kittredge School, it's raised many concerns for the students, parents, staff, and many other members of this community. 452 people signed the petition, and actually, but that was pretty much within 24 hours of it being released, that strongly opposed the closure of the school. As a reminder, the school committee operational goals states that your primary responsibility is, and I quote, to establish purposes, programs, and procedures that will best produce the educational achievement needed by our students, and your responsibility is for the people whose benefit the school system has been established for. The committee's current decisions will influence the course of education in our schools for years to come. So this requires a comprehensive perspective and a long-range plan in addition to attention to the immediate problems. Therefore, our viewpoints will not be pacified by an informational town meeting. Our goal is to play an active role in this decision-making progress. We believe that our children's academic, social, and emotional well-being is more important than an immediate remedy to relieve the school budget. The school's budget can be altered more equitably and gradually. We believe the teacher-student ratio is critical to meeting our students' diverse needs. Research supports that lower class sizes yield higher achievement. Yet, your plan is to increase class sizes from the 18-20 to 25 to 27 students per class, thus having the opposite effect. We believe that transitions of this magnitude, if they need to occur, should occur more gradually and with more preparation. And last night when you were asked where the Kittredge students would go, there was no clear answer. There was much indecisiveness. You listed one open classroom, one conference room, and several offices that could be relocated at Sargent. This is not enough space for an entire school to be distributed into. While there is budgetary recommendation, there is not a calculated plan for the needs of any students in our district. Before a vote takes place, the short-term and the long-term impact would need to impose on our schools should be considered. So additionally, we would like specific answers to the questions. Would the school committee and the school council be willing to meet with parent advocates to devise a plan together moving forward if our students need to be relocated? And we do have a few more here that we would like to discuss, but in being mindful of the time, I'd like to just finish it up. It is clear to us that the town is using our children as pawns to fix your budget, without any remorse over the district direct ramifications that are inevitable. We deserve to have the opportunity to gather our own research, understand more of how the budget will be managed and audits in the future, and most of all, we hope to preserve our students' rights to receive an equitable educational experience that puts their needs and their goals at the forefront. Our students and our staff should not be responsibility for the exorbitant spending of those who have been careless in the past. A transition of this magnitude entitles our advocacy group to have a more active role in the decision-making process. Most importantly, a transition of this magnitude entitles our students and our staff to be put first in how we implore those who are determining the fate of our school system to remember that. And in closing, please remember that the Massachusetts School Committee Code of Ethics states that a school committee's member, in their relations with their community, should realize that their primary responsibility is to the children, and that one of your duties clearly states to vote and act in the committee impartially for the good of the students. Closing the #1 ranked elementary school in North Andover and 29th ranked in Massachusetts, and moving them to a school that is ranked 459th, that doesn't have this space, and will increase the classroom size, all without a clear plan, because you're rushing this process, is clearly irresponsible and doesn't uphold your duties and responsibilities of putting our community's children and their well-being first. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, members of the school committee. My name is Bennett Ahern. I teach robotics and automation at the high school, East Kingston, New Hampshire. When I got the call 10 years ago that I was going to be hired at North Andover High School, I was giddy, because 10 years before then, as a high school student myself, the name North Andover was associated with an educational powerhouse. It had a reputation. It continues to have that reputation. I'm going to keep this short and sweet and just simply say the proposed changes to the budget and the cuts that you are proposing, you will lose that reputation. You will lose that association. And I would ask you to reconsider. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nadia Chinchilla Martil. I'm a North Andover resident, and I'm a parent of a Kittredge first grader, an excellent first grader, with the most fabulous teachers that I have ever met. And my husband's an educator, and I can say that they are better than my husband, who I love, but they're better than my husband. I don't have a speech prepared, so this is not going to be eloquent. But my first request would be more transparent in your communications. There were 3 emails that were sent out on Friday, and the one to the district that failed to mention completely that closing the Kittredge School was something that was being considered. This is not a issue just for the Kittredge community. This is not a Kittredge problem. This is a district-wide problem. This is something that the entire district should know and should have been informed about. Why? Because closing one school has an impact on not just all of the parents, but the entire community. So one, I would ask you to please make sure that when you're communicating the plans, that they're communicated more broadly for true and accurate transparency. And I understand that this town suffers from lack of transparency from what I understand. My husband and I moved to this town because of the school district. We looked at Andover, we looked at North Reading, and we moved here because of the reputation of the school. We made an offer on a house because we knew that my daughter was going to go to the highest ranked elementary school in the district, with the highest reading proficiency scores, with the highest math proficiency scores in the district, ranked 29th in the state of Massachusetts. You can't pay enough money for that, right? Now that we have gone through ABCC and Kittredge, we know that the excessive amount of money that we paid for our house is well worth it because our daughter is getting a fantastic education. I don't understand why, out of all of the possibilities that you have before you in terms of budget cuts, you're deciding to close the school that clearly has the most dedicated staff, because being the highest ranked school in this district does not just happen overnight. It's due to the dedicated teachers that you have here that have been in this school for decades. It happens because the class sizes are small. So now you're asking the Kittredge community, the teachers, to increase the class sizes, to reduce, resources. That's not in the best interest of our kids. I ask you to please consider any and all other options that are available that are not going to just impact the Kittredge community. Having just impact them is a disproportionate impact on them, not the entire North Andover district. It doesn't seem fair. I also want to remind you that if this school is closed, you are elected officials. There will be consequences, because it does not seem that you are acting in the best interest of our kids. If you were, you would not close the highest ranked school. You would consider other options. So advocate for our kids, find the money, get the town to do it, do an override, ask the residents for more money, whatever it is you need to do, but you need to do it better. Thank you.
My name is Amanda Laws, and I live on Pembroke Road. I'm a mother of Reese, Felix, and Bowen, who are in 7th, 4th, and 1st grade. I'm also a licensed mental health counselor, a school adjustment counselor, and an employee of the Cambridge Public Schools. I understand firsthand what children need to feel safe, supported, and successful in school. And yet, here I am, heartbroken and outraged at the prospect of closing Kittredge. Felix started kindergarten in the fall of 2020, masked and in half-day sessions, hardly an ideal way to begin his education. But despite those challenges, he has thrived at Kittredge because of its small, nurturing environment and dedicated teachers. Now you're telling him and 220 other children that none of that matters. Bowen, my 1st grader, and her classmates will be forced to endure 3 school transitions within the first 3 years of their education if this plan goes through. How is that in their best interest? How does that align with the priorities that this committee claims to uphold? Stability, relationships, and community are fundamental to student success. This decision destroys all 3. And for what? Because of a budget shortfall that wasn't caused by these children, these teachers, or this community. Yet they are the ones who pay the price. Other districts across the state are also facing financial challenges, but even those proposing school closures are doing so with more thoughtfulness, care, and a commitment to maintaining continuity for their students. North Andover's plan does none of that. The school committee and superintendent have an obligation to act in the best interest of children and families. Closing Kittredge is not in their best interest. It is a short-sighted, harmful decision that contradicts everything this committee claims to value. You speak of equity, but equity is not about making everything the same. It is about ensuring that every child gets what they need to succeed. How can anyone here claim in good faith that displacing 221 students, sending them into an overcrowded school, and increasing class size to 27 is an equitable decision? How does that support MTSS? How does that deepen learning? How does that provide the individualized support that children need? It doesn't. Parents, teachers, and students deserve better, and if this committee is truly committed to equity, student well-being, and educational excellence, then you must find a better solution than shutting down a thriving school and destabilizing an entire community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andrew DeVore. I live on Forest Street. We have 4 children that are either current or future Sergeant Sharks. I'm most concerned, and I come here to speak tonight, about the prospect of increased class sizes impacting our youngest students when our elementary class sizes are already much larger than they should be. I just heard about the prospect of stuffing 2 schools into one just 2 days ago, and my first reaction was, that can't possibly be on the table. I've walked around the Sargent Elementary School. How can you fit 2 schools into one when one is already full without severely impacting the student experience for both the Sargent and the Kittredge students? Not to mention the severe dislocation harm that occurs from moving kids from Kittredge to a different school. This is a town that has the means to address a $4 million budget shortfall. Look around the town. There are means to properly fund our schools, and that should be the focus instead of firing teachers and stuffing 2 elementary schools into one. Which brings me to the chair's suggestion that this budget shortfall has nothing to do with prior budget mismanagement. Respectfully, as a veteran restructuring professional that deals with distressed companies on a daily basis, wells that can be tapped to plug budget deficits are not unlimited. Having had to plug past deficits due to mismanagement makes it harder to go back to those wells today. Past mismanagement cannot be wiped under the rug for ongoing shortfalls. I implore the board to explore all options. Increasing class sizes is not a solution. It shouldn't even be an option.
Christy Martin, 136 Old Farm Road. I have 3 kids in the North Andover Public School System. I was on the subcapacity committee. I'm very familiar with the Kittredge expansion and also some of the challenges that the other schools are facing moving forward. My only comment is this: 13 years ago when we moved to North Andover, Dave, you can speak to this. There was a petition to sign to save Kittredge, right? And there was a petition. Dave knocked on my door and said, let's save Kittredge. Please sign this petition. Let's build a gym. And at that time, there was no doubt in my mind. I immediately signed that. So I implore all of you at the same time, save Kittredge.
Hello, my name is Christopher Davis. I live at 1160 Great Pond Road, and I have 2 kids at Kittredge. So I'm a teacher myself, and so I like to use analogies because I think they help to explain complex ideas. So I'm going to start with one today. So we got a person who's overweight, and they need to lose some weight. And so they determine that the fastest way to do that is to cut off their arm. Yes, the person accomplished their goal, but at great harm to themselves and without actually addressing the root of the problem. That is what is happening here. Yes, the school district is over budget through the severe mismanagement incompetence of previous superintendent, and it appears that your desired solution is to cut off our arm by excising Kittredge. After the meeting yesterday evening with Superintendent Lathrop, it seems that there was not a good faith effort, and by the presentation today, we didn't even hear anything about option 1. It seems that the solution that doesn't involve removing a school, namely Kittredge, from the district, especially with the revelation that Ms. Lathrop also said yesterday, that even once Kittredge reopens, another elementary school is going offline. Our town is not shrinking. Why do we feel we have too many schools? Ms. Lathrop made it seem like there are no other options, but you have no choice but to close Kittredge to meet the town manager's budget. But the only reason that closing Kittredge is an option in the first place is because you proposed it. And unfortunately for our children, it also seems like the most financially easy route for the school committee. Using another teaching analogy, it reminds me of a group that has had months to complete a project but procrastinates until the last minute and make the easy but the sloppy and potentially disastrous decision. Closing a school in order to save a buck is highly... It adds to the lack of faith that I have in the school committee and the district administration to actually care for the students that they're supposed to. There also seems to be an intentional effort to not publicize this issue to the broader community, past what is maybe legally required or what is based on procedure. As the Kittredge email on January 3rd and the district email on the same date were nearly identical, aside from the removal of the information about the Kittredge closure in the district-wide email. You are hiding behind procedure. Is it procedure to make a multi-year decision that impacts hundreds, if not thousands of residents in only 1 month, January 2nd, working committee to February 6th? And if this was an option that's been around longer, it further lends evidence that this is being purposely hidden from the town at large. Is the only reason the email went out on January 3rd because there was public members who were then broadcasting that through maybe North Andover Facebook's North Andover Mom's Facebook or just to their friends? Would the Kittredge community even have heard about the decision until after it was already voted upon and written into the budget? Yesterday in the Zoom session, Ms. Lathrop, in response to apparent concerns, told us, "I don't look at this as a burden, but rather as an opportunity. That is an insult to say that to our face with a smile. If it's really about money, just say it. That's fine. Explain it. Own it. Don't try to play it off as something that we should be glad to have." Ms. Lathrop, again, in response to... Ms. Lathrop, again in response to parent concerns, explained that because Kittredge students have had such small class sizes, it's actually more equitable to get them into bigger classes because they've been at too much of an advantage, apparently. If this is the best that we can come up with, then I have no faith in your ability to lead our district, and I strongly consider us looking for a replacement that actually has vision on how to bring us into the future. Thank you.
My name is Ryan Dono. I live on Woodcrest Drive. I despise speaking in public, so if I stutter, please forgive me. I have 2 children in the Kittredge schools, a 4th and a 1st grader, and I have a 2-year-old who looks forward to joining his big brother and sister there someday in the future. A few years ago, my family and I moved out of a town where school board meetings were overwhelmingly focused on anti-science policy, limiting inclusivity, and book banning. We came to North Andover with the sole hope that this town prioritized education, inclusivity, and development of community. We sought a school system that would foster a supportive and creative environment that inspired a love of learning. So far, Kittredge has done all of that and more. My 2 children absolutely love it there, and my oldest is absolutely crushed to hear this proposed plan. The proposed plan to close Kittredge would be tragic and incredibly destructive to our children's development and our community. It's unacceptable to overcrowd another school, increasing class sizes, and should not be an acceptable option. Overcrowding is only going to result in poor academic achievement, stunt our children's development. It will lose teachers that won't want to remain in an overstressed system, and eventually is going to decrease the property values to everyone in town. There needs to be better options put on the table. It's unacceptable that we have been unable to manage our school budget, and having this result in the current situation is completely unacceptable, and I hope that we can come up with some better options. Thank you.
Katie O'Donnell. I live on Bear Hill Road in North Andover, and I am an educational professional and a mental health clinician, and I also have 2 students that are involved in the district right now, and both of them have IEPs. So as a special education parent and also somebody who works in the field, my greatest concern is for those students that are most vulnerable in our district. My concern with the proposed plans right now are that we have no information about how that's going to be dealt with. And things that you can't see on paper that I have the benefit of seeing by being in 13 different school districts across my day are things like what happens when caseloads go up for professionals that are working in our districts. What happens if we have to shift positions as it says here? What does that mean? We've already shifted positions this year. If you talk to anybody in the district who works here, people have 8, 9 jobs that they never had before. We've already restructured. Things are not going well right now. My kids need more than your typical kid in a district, and I worry about the impact that larger class sizes are going to have on my own children, as well as other children. And you're talking about 24% of Kittredge being special ed students. Have you thought about the impact of what that's going to look like for them to have to make such a big transition next year? What is going to happen for those kids? As a mental health clinician, I would be very, very concerned about the outcomes for those students socially and emotionally, having to both leave their community of other students, their teachers, and all the loss that they're going to experience. I also understand that there's a specialized program there. Where is that going to go? How is that going to be staffed? What are we going to do with the staff that we're losing? Does that include occupational therapists, speech and language therapists, school psychologists, counselors? What does that mean? What does that mean for our kids? They need all those things. My kids need these things, and all these people's kids need those things too. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Dan Tereshko. I live at 135 Stevens Street. I moved out of my house when I was 18 years old, and I've moved 11 times in 20 years. And with my wife, we had the opportunity to finally move to North Andover to just get a foot in the door 2 years ago, and we got to live at Mill Pond until we found our forever home. Unfortunately, it's in the same school district as Kittredge, and we just moved into our forever home there. And then for me, in 24 years or 20 years now, however long it's been, this is the first time I've ever felt at home in a community and knowing what a community is like. I suffer from extreme anxiety, so getting up here is tough for me, but I feel supported by the community that's behind me. And this is my son, who's a first grader at Kittredge and has the best teacher in the world. He has severe anxiety as well. He's gone through many school changes. He caught a whiff of this the other night, and he hasn't been the same in 48 hours. This all came out about 2 weeks ago, the first meeting, and now we're looking to propose a budget in a couple more weeks. Nobody here has done the fiscal responsibility to do a planned study of what happens 4 to 5 years out. Will history repeat itself? What is going to be the long-term impact on the budget when we are not accounting for the fact that we might be screwing our budget in the long term again? How can we keep doing the same thing, banging our head against the wall and expecting a different outcome? This can't continue. You didn't even propose keeping the school open for 1 more year so that we could do a proper study of what the impact to the entire town will be. You're looking to squash a bug that is not the issue. You have to take a look in the mirror and protect our kids. I'd also ask, I've heard plenty of people tonight say, my wallet's open. Where was the override? Where was the override? We're the people that get to vote and express what we want to do. Your 2 proposals that you put on the table, if I were a teacher, I would have given them an F. Those aren't proposals. Okay, let's pass the continuing budget and let's talk about this for the next year. But to squash this right here and now is extremely irresponsible, and you have a higher responsibility. Thank you.
My name is Molly Daniel Green, and I live on Glen Cush Drive.
and I have 2 girls at Kittredge. As a healthcare professional in this day and age, I understand the stress and anxiety of going to work every day that these teachers have, with having too much to do and having to take care of kids. For 15 years, I did nothing but take care and manage deathly ill babies on ventilators, and you're asking them to do the same stress and anxiety I did for 15 years. The language and tone and the way the school committee and the superintendent have decided to communicate with this community is unclear, because if you looked in your tax bill, the newsletter, it mentioned nothing of this from the superintendent or the town manager. My husband served this country for 24 years, and we were stuck in Florida, and we chose to come to this community for a better education, because I know, watching my 5th grader and my 3rd grader, what we had to go through to get them an ounce of equitable education in the state of Florida. That's what you're doing to these kids by saying, you're not good enough, so let's just put you all together. Okay, being 50%, you're fine. Go ahead. That's okay. That's not okay. Massachusetts is the land of education. This is where I was educated. This is where every single college degree I've gotten from. And that's because this is the best place for kids. And you're saying to me as a parent, for someone who has seen how education is done poorly in other states, that you're okay with the way it's done elsewhere. This should be the best education, the state that shines to educate kids at any level. And you're telling me that it's okay that you're not giving anybody equitable education by doubling class sizes for those Kittredge kids. It's not fair, it's not moral, it's not ethical, and these teachers deserve more for what they've allowed you to let them put up with.
Good evening. My name's Cesar Perez. I live in Bradford, Mass, right over the border. Technically Haverhill, for those who might call it that way. That's perfectly fine. I started in North Andover as one of the IT personnel for the schools in August of 2023. I mainly take care of the high school in Kittredge, and before I accepted the offer at North Andover, I had a great offer from the town of Amesbury. It was for a bigger role. It was something that would give me more experience as a professional. But I decided to come to North Andover because when I was younger, my mother pursued moving to Andover so that I could get a better education as a child. And that's something I'll never forget. I'll be forever grateful. But North Andover was always seen as an equal. And now that I work in North Andover, I see that it's not an equal. We don't put the same educational perspective or importance as Andover does. But I came to North Andover to try to help kids that might be like me, who came to the school system for a better education. And in part of the technology aspect of things, we did cut the Chromebooks for the elementary school kids this year. At least the one-to-one Chromebooks, we still do have the carts, but it still puts a strain on the teachers. Teachers have already gone about 4 years with Chromebooks. In the middle school and high school level, the Chromebooks became essential because now you have things like Google Classroom that teachers rely on. They give their kids their assignments through there. The kids do their work through there. Whenever it's computer work, they have to do it on the Chromebooks. Now, if we take that away from them and do the bring your own device, yes, kids can bring their own device, but what about those kids who don't have a Chromebook or a laptop? We can do the plan of giving the kids who have free or reduced lunch Chromebooks and laptops. What social aspect does that give to them? Kids nowadays, unfortunately, they look at the social aspect more than we do as adults. And that might cause a strain among the kids who might need a Chromebook because they don't have the ability to buy their own laptop at home. So, as somebody whose parents always look for a better education, I urge you to possibly look at all the options and not just closing down Kittredge and doing these other things. Kittredge has become like a family to me. I always said that if I got another school assigned to me, I would gladly take it on with Kittredge and not let go of Kittredge or assign it to somebody else. And I truly mean that. Kittredge staff works super hard despite not having the best building in the district. They work with what they do. Understandably, some kids don't have spaces there, and that's perfectly fine to the kids. I've never seen a kid once complain that they don't have their own cafeteria space. It's just the truth. So I urge you to look at other options, and thank you for your time.
I'm going to just interrupt you for one moment. We're going to end with the gentleman in the black jacket. I do want to remind everybody we will have public comment on January 21st at our next meeting as well. But we have the rest of the agenda to get through, so we will have additional public comment at our next meeting, but we need to conclude for this meeting. And we do have community chat on the 1st and public hearing on January 30th, so a lot of time that we can have additional comment as well. So proceed. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adam Barrows, and I sit here before you as the father of two. It's my daughter's birthday today. She's turning 10 today, and I sit here in front of you. One of my children is autistic, and the decisions being made about our schools are deeply personal to my family. I want to speak about the harm that growing classroom sizes will have on the quality of education, harm that will not be only felt by my son, but by all children. Right now, my son has the support of some of the most capable, compassionate staff you could ever hope for. Teachers who know him, who understand his needs, who've worked tirelessly to help him grow and succeed. Those educators aren't just doing their job. They've become trusted members of his life. But with the changes being discussed, those very staff members, the ones he has relationships with, will no longer be there. Larger classrooms won't just mean more students packed into a space. It will mean losing those experienced, dedicated teachers who make all the difference for children like mine. The support staff, the special education aides, the people who have helped my son find his confidence and his voice, gone. And without them, the quality of education and support will suffer. I can already imagine what that would look like for my son. He thrives on consistency, on routine, on knowing that the adults around him understand how to meet his unique needs. But as classrooms grow and staffing shrinks, that stability disappears. Teachers will have less time to offer personalized attention, less opportunity to intervene when children struggle, and fewer resources to help those who need more than just standard instruction. It won't only be children with special needs who feel this loss. Every child will be affected. When a teacher is spread too thin, no one gets the attention they deserve. Quiet children who might need extra help won't be noticed. The gifted child who could be challenged further won't be. Teachers will be forced to focus on managing a crowded room instead of connecting with their students as they do now. This change isn't some distant possibility. It's something we're facing right now as decisions are being made in front of us. And I worry, not just as a father, but as someone who believes in the power of education, that we are failing our children. We need to ask ourselves, what kind of education do we want for our kids? One where they feel seen, heard, and supported, or one where they become just another face in a crowded room? I'm pleading with you tonight. Let's choose better. Let's make the hard decisions now to keep our classrooms manageable and our teachers supported. Let's fight for the quality education every child, including my son, deserves. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica O'Donnell, and I live at 480 Boxford Street. I have 3 children in North Andover Public Schools, an 8th grader who has had an amazing, empowering experience at the middle school so far, a 5th grader, and a 2nd grader at Sargent. I think the volume of parents and educators in this room speaks directly to the community's deep concern over the proposed budget plans. The bottom line is our school needs a higher budget, and our town needs to make this happen. How can you consider approving a plan that makes class sizes larger, therefore lowering our education standards across town, setting up hundreds of young children in our district for learning difficulties? A strong elementary education is essential to future educational success, and by moving forward with this plan, we are setting the children up for failure. Students with learning disabilities and all students thrive with smaller class sizes. Right now, special education reading groups at Sargent are already at capacity. This past year, my son, Finn, was diagnosed with dyslexia. So this is my third child, first experience with an IEP. And the one thing that I have noticed most is that our children in town do not have the proper ratios to receive the proper cadence of care they need for reading difficulties. Our teachers are already spread thin, and I know this town lacks the proper, quantity of reading specialists to properly service our special ed students. Merging schools and cutting teachers will only make this worse, leaving students with fewer resources and teachers overwhelmed. Our children will head to middle school with unresolved literacy issues, setting themselves up for future challenges. I also want to highlight the financial implications. The district often mentions the budget burden caused by out-of-district placements. Yet by failing to adequately serve our special education community with this merger or with any of the proposed options, we risk driving even more families to seek those placements, worsening the budget strain in the long term. This decision would be a disservice to our children and our teachers. We should be investing in their success, not limiting it. I urge you to find another solution, one that balances the budget without sacrificing the education and future of our children. Thank you.
My name is Sean Dunn. I'm a resident on Berry Street. I have 2 kids at the Sargent School. And I just wanted to get on the record here as saying that I oppose this plan, and it's very devastating to think about class sizes getting up to 27 students in a classroom. My kids, I love them to death, and they love Sargent School. And I see Principal Murdoch Leahy here, and very glad to see her here. She does a great job. They love the school, but they are easily distracted. And with 27 students in a classroom, I think that's going to be a problem for them. So it's very difficult to hear that that classroom size may be at as large as 27 students. My favorite part of the day is meeting with my neighbor every morning at the bus stop. And we talk about North Andover being paradise. It is a great place to live. It's awesome. But I think this has the opportunity to make this a place that isn't paradise anymore. And I think all the people here, it gives me encouragement to hear all these people here, talking about keeping the school system going. It's because of the people here that this place is paradise, and these students over here, they're a product of a school system that made their education a priority. And I want to hear. So I think you have an opportunity here to keep this place a paradise. So thanks very much.
All right, hello, my name's Ryan Gendron. I'm a parent, live at 32 South Cross Road. We moved to North Andover for the education like many people who have spoken before me, and I'm very alarmed at the discussions that have been happening. I want to go back to the December 5th school committee meeting. Research was introduced alleging that increasing class sizes to 16 to 40 students benefited their academic achievement. 40 students. It was later, there was a caveat added that, well, if you don't take into account social and emotional wellness, and if you don't take into account building relationships, and if you don't take into account building community in the classroom, and that's the whole point of our kids going to school. So you can't separate those things to create an argument to increase the extended class sizes to 27. No one thinks that's good for kids, their social emotional wellness or their academic achievement. And so if any members of the community haven't seen that, please go back and watch, because it's irresponsible to introduce research in an effort to increase the class size cap. It was later discussed that, well, we're only moving it to 27 just in case, or to add flexibility. But when your budget directive says 27, we're going to have classrooms with 27 kids in them, and it's not appropriate and it's not acceptable. On the move proposed to Sargent, it's it shouldn't even be discussed because it's impractical. Moving an entire school not only harms the kids being moved, but moving them to the elementary school with the largest enrollment, the largest class sizes, and the furthest geographically doesn't make sense. You know, having 5 small, some old elementary schools definitely poses challenges, and it's definitely not fiscally efficient. And that's something that needs to get worked out, but not by January 30th. And with all due respect to all of the interim appointments that have stepped up during unexpected position changes, and I really appreciate everything everyone's done, but these are transformative changes that I think need to be made by a selected superintendent. And I'm disappointed. And I'm disappointed that the previous superintendent left, the budget problems continue, and the superintendent search hasn't begun. And so I think there's a lot of concerns, and I know everyone here is here because you care about kids. My kid loves going to school every day thanks to the outstanding teachers he's had so far, and I can't wait for my daughter to get to kindergarten. But things need to change. They need to change fast. I hope you take the feedback, reflect, and do better. Thank you for the time.
Eric McLean, 399 Ray Street. I have 3 children, 2 in the system. 1 will be in next year. Madam Chair, I thank you for your time. Board members, I thank you for your time. As the last speaker, I'll try to keep it quick. A lot has been said tonight, and I hope you're listening. I'm going to remind this board and members of the community, 8 years ago, we sat in a town meeting, and the ABECC master plan came through. And it was sold by the then superintendent and the then town manager and the then select members and the then school the school board that we would build this school so that it opened up classes throughout the rest of the elementary schools. It opened up 4 classrooms in every elementary school, and that would give the school board and the superintendent opportunities to decrease class size. In the 8 years since we spent that $70 million, class size has not reduced. And in fact, you're now proposing we increase it again. Yet the master plan continues. We're going to spend another $70 million this year. If there's a shortfall of $4 million in a $200+ million town budget, I want to repeat that number, $200 million plus. A $4 million shortfall is nothing. There is over $1 million pegged for sidewalk improvement. I love sidewalks. I think they're amazing. I like schools better. Madam Chairman, members of the board, I ask you do the right thing. I ask that you go toe-to-toe with the town manager, with the school, with the selectmen, with the finance committee. That is your job, to fight for the children's interests, not for their interests. The town manager's interest is to have a balanced budget and to have good bondable projects. Good, that's her job. Your job is to fight for the children. Thank you very much.
All right, that will conclude public comment. Thank you, everybody, for the comments that were made. As I'll mention again, the budget presentations will be made on January 21st. I know we haven't heard all the details of them, and that's when the school committee will have our discussion on those presentations that come forth, and we'll have additional public comment at that time as well. Thank you. And again, that'll be at the high school auditorium. Give a minute for those that are leaving. All right, we're going to move on to the rest of our agenda. We have a recognition.
We have a couple recognitions. Share that. So we're going to start. Gosh, I can't see as closely as I can see when we're in. Don't know. But we want to say congratulations to Mihak Santakala. I'm sorry if I've said your name wrong. She was accepted to the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Civics Project Student Leadership Program. She's currently a 10th grade student at North Andover High School. Participants in this program are all Massachusetts high school students from different parts of the state who were excited about making change in their communities and have been previously completed a student-led civics project. If you remember, she was the student who came forth with the proposal to look at our religious and ethnic holidays and to make sure that our students felt comfortable taking those days off from school and wouldn't be penalized if they missed a homework, or there wouldn't be tests, or they wouldn't be penalized in their activities for sports. I'm really proud to say that through the work that she did with Mr. McGravy and the Civics Project, that we do have that in our policy now. That was a policy that the school board changed, and that our staff has been really receptive to looking at those religious and ethnic holidays, and we've spent a lot of time actually learning about them this year. So congratulations to her, and we're glad to see that the state has recognized her.
I'm super excited because that when she interviewed me, and that was 4 years ago she started that work. And
Yeah,
I'm
she
glad
was
to see that she's become such an engaged leader in statewide now.
Yeah, so really happy that she is representing North Andover. And today is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and so in North Andover we took the opportunity to appreciate our law enforcement officers who work within our schools. Officer Jimenez and Officer Contreras are our school resource officers, and Officer Wilson is our community officer, and Officer Scarlett is our community police dog. And they came to central office today, and we had an opportunity to share a little gift with them and thank them for all of their work in our schools.
All right. Do we have any roundtable reports from any of the committee members? No? Okay. Upcoming NAPS and community events. Do we have any of those?
I have a few. Just a reminder that next Friday, January 17th, is No School for Students. It's a professional development day for our staff. We will send out a reminder as well. January 20th is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so there will also be no school. On January 22nd, the North Andover Parent Resource Network, along with the North Andover Public Schools, is offering a virtual event called Wait Until 8. That is a renowned speaker that will come in. It's a Zoom event. Something should have gone home to all of the schools, but it's also on our website for you to register. You do need to register to be able to participate. And there will be I want to say MC, but that's not the right word, guiding the conversation and really talking about the use of cell phones and and specifically the use of smartphones, and potentially making a pledge, waiting until 8th grade before students have the opportunity to have smartphones. Not to say that they couldn't have cell phones, but not to have smartphones. And then also on January 22nd at 5:30, our LPAC, that's our English Language Parent Advisory Group, will be meeting at Stevens Memorial Library at 5:30. And then January 23rd to January 25th, our NAM students are presenting Legally Blonde. And I'm sure there'll be more information coming out about that, but they're super excited to be able to share that.
Madam Chair, also January, if I may, January 25th, next robotics tournament we're hosting at the high school. That morning I'll be a judge again for that.
Madam Chair and Madam Superintendent, on January 29th, I know we'll be able to say this again, but just so everyone can put it on the calendar, January 29th at 7:45 in the morning, another opportunity to have coffee and conversation with Ms. Parker at the middle school to talk about reading.
All right, thank you. Another reminder that February 1st, we have our school committee chat that will happen at central office. The time is
11 a.m.
at 11 to what? I'm sorry.
11 to 12.
11 to 12.
I think it's me and Mr. Moskovitz.
Yes, so Mr. Hicks and Mr. Moskovich will be at Central Office on February 1st from 11 to 12 to speak with community members. That's an opportunity to go and speak with them about any concerns that you may have. All right, we'll move on to around the district.
Great. Here it comes. Maybe. So I start today with some pictures from the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship that was held this week at North Andover High School. It was a wonderful event. Principal Holman and Assistant Principal Young and Grantham hosted and recognized, and Meg Pinkston, our Director of Guidance, our students who were awarded the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. Our students spoke about that, but just as a reminder, the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship is a merit-based program that provides a credit towards tuition for up to 8 semesters of undergraduate education at Massachusetts State College or University. For this scholarship, merit is based on the student's scores on the 10th grade Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment Test, or MCAS. So it was really wonderful to be there. The students had an opportunity to invite caregivers, and it was great to be able to celebrate them. Then from the last time that we saw you for school committee, just as a reminder, during the month of December and January, we've been working on budget development, having had received the budget number from the town manager. On January 4th, I was able to participate in the finance member swearing-in ceremony. So unfortunately, there was an opening on the finance committee in our town due to the passing away of a member, which was very sad, and a member who had given much to the community. But we have a new member on that board, and we were able to, I was able to be there with some other members from the school committee to swear her in. And what's great is that she comes with experience working in education, in finance and education, so I think she'll be a great asset to the finance committee and support to the school committee. Also on January 8th, as I just mentioned, I was able to go to the scholarship ceremony. I really spent the bulk of my day at the high school on the 8th. After that, I had a listening session with students. I think if you might remember, I had shared that I had gone to the student council meeting earlier, or I think maybe at the end of December. But I know that there are more students than just the students at Student Council, so we opened it up to all students. Ms. Pinkston, the Director of Guidance, helped me. It was a great listening session. I was so pleased that students came in and chatted with me. Some came with detailed notes. My main purpose was for being there was to ask them about ways, things that they were looking for in a high school principal, and what they thought was important and what they valued at their school. My entire session, I was there from 11:30 to 1:30, was completely filled with students coming to visit me and share information. Not only did they share information about what they were looking for in a high school principal, but many of them had opinions about some of the budget that they heard, and they shared that with me as well as suggestions. And as I promised one student, we would take back that suggestion and run the numbers, because that's what we're doing with all of them. And students came and shared with me some of the things that really weren't working for them, and that was really helpful to hear as well. We have created a Google form that has been released to, did you get it? Did students get it? Okay, so we'll make sure, because it was supposed to be sent out yesterday at 2 o'clock to the students, a Google form for those of them that weren't able to attend, to be able to share some of their information or thoughts with us as well. Also, yesterday I participated in a mentoring session with my mentor from Massachusetts Superintendent's Association. And then later in the afternoon, I attended the staff meeting at North Andover High School, speaking with the staff, asking the same questions about what they're looking for in a high school principal. And the high school, they were also given the opportunity to fill out the Google form. And then yesterday afternoon, I visited with the Kittredge School staff. I had an opportunity to share with them some of the information that I shared here this evening, and explain to them what's happening with the budget and where we are and why some of the recommendations were asked, and to be able to answer some of the questions that the Kittredge School staff had. Also, last night, I participated in a Zoom meeting with the Kittredge School PTO. I want to thank the PTO at the Kittredge School for organizing that and for hosting the Zoom meeting. It was well attended. There were lots of questions, many that we were able to answer, some that I was not able to answer. But my understanding is that the president from the PTO at Kittredge is going to get to me those of ones that we weren't able to answer. And that is that. And then moving on to the budget. This is a budget update as of January 7th, 2025. And while we continue to run a deficit or be projecting a deficit for this year, I will say that this budget presentation this evening very much matches the budget presentation that we had on December 19th. So I feel that we are encumbered, the expenses that we had anticipated encumbering, and that this is the unfortunate progression of that we would be expecting. So that is there for you, just showing you again the deficit that we're projecting this year, the potential funding sources that we have, and then the adjustment.
Madam Chair, at the top it says FY26. Should that be FY25?
That should be FY25. This is FY25 budget. This is the current fiscal year.
It says 25 on mine. Oh, it says 26.
At the very top, at the title.
Right here.
Oh, it does. Thank you.
And just a question, Superintendent Lathrop, on the potential funding sources. Do we have all that money, or does that need to be voted on at town meeting?
That money needs to be voted on at town meeting. We are hoping to get on the agenda for the Finance Committee to be able to request that the Finance Committee's reserve fund. So we're looking to be able to get on their next agenda to be able to do that.
But the other three items are all town meeting
Part
votes.
of town meeting.
And then the number at the bottom, the 1.234, that's where we would land based on your estimate today, right?
Correct.
And that would have to be covered by, also covered by the town.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the last slide just shows you the budget presentation from January 19th and today, so that you see that we are forecasting very similar. 1,234,000.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, going on to the chair update. Looking for any update on the advisory committee for special education. I understand that you had a meeting yesterday. Want to see where things are standing.
We started yesterday. Mr. Moskovich and I, and Miss Ando, and Miss O'Neill, and Zora Warren, Lauren Stedman, and Sasha Weinrich started off. I think I got everybody. Our small group started off with an initial meeting to sort of lay the groundwork and lay out a plan of how we're going to start doing the work. We have a meeting scheduled again for this coming Monday, and then
2 weeks later.
2 weeks later. And during those two meetings, we're going to review the Urban Collaborative report and start thinking about what other sources of data we want, and then also make the plan for onboarding and having other people get involved. We're going to spend the next 2 weeks sort of making that plan about how we're going to do our work. And then in March, I think we're supposed to have an official presentation for the entire committee. Did I capture everything, Mr. Moskovich and Ms. Ando?
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Great. Thank you. It's good to hear that is getting off the ground and running. So thank you for that. All right. School building committee updates. We'll start with the North Andover Middle School.
It's me again. We might only have like 2 more meetings as a school building committee. The project is very, very, very close to being done. There's a couple punch list items, if they arrive on time, I think the last whiteboards, chalkboards are supposed to go up by the end of next week, I think they said. If they arrive early, it could be even sooner, and I think that's the last part to do. One little thing on the roof, and we are officially done. I think we have another meeting coming up, and that might be, I think that will be the penultimate meeting, and then we'll officially close out. We are done
That's
early.
with the addition, though. That's not with the renovations.
No,
That's with everything?
Everything.
Oh,
No, we're
okay.
done.
Wow. Okay.
There is a little little thing we're working on with the rigging in the auditorium to make sure the backdrop for the musical can be hung properly. But there are new lights, and that the light board and the new lights and rigging are all set for the production of I forgot the
Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde. I was going to say Newsies, but that was last year. So we're really excited about that. That's coming up in a couple weeks, and that'll be like a grand opening of our new auditorium, first performance with the new lights and stuff. No, we are done, and then we'll be. I think so. We are we are early because it was supposed to be like next week. We were done, so we're early and under budget.
Wonderful. Thank you.
The exact number of under budget we'll find out at the next meeting.
Okay. All right. And
Kittredge.
Kittredge.
All right. So there was a meeting last Thursday. I unfortunately could not attend it, but Ms. Lathrop was there. But I did get a full briefing from the chair of that committee, the subcommittee, the Kittredge Building Committee. So one thing that's happened is that we've asked the owner, project manager, and the architects to take another look at what they might do if they were fully able to utilize the area rather than be constrained by the existing building. So they're coming up with additional, it was a small amount of money that we could absorb in the existing budget for the project, for this part of the project, so that they could examine that and propose alternatives that would take advantage of that should that be our ultimate decision. So that's work that's ongoing right now. Because of that, we are going to, instead of getting in on the, I'm going to get this, and get it, instead of the March decision, we're going for the May decision date for MSBA. So we will, so basically we slip 2 months in schedule to allow us to offer these alternatives should they come to pass, right?
Okay.
And it doesn't cause, the good news is that does not cause a delay in the overall schedule, that we had contingencies built in, so we can.
And it doesn't affect the options we already have.
And it does not affect the options we already have. So it's the idea is to give the architect more time to draw up these plans.
After you vote on this, then it gets submitted to them?
Yes, what we're voting on is a schematic proposal to MSBC.
And how long does it take before they?
I think they approve it. It's like a 4-week turnaround.
so. I
It's
don't
4 to
have the
6 weeks,
timeline
I
in front
think,
of me.
before they get back to us with a decision.
And at that point, are we free to do whatever it is that we finally decided to do, or do we then have to go to town meeting?
We would have to go to, the project could continue, right, in terms of the timeline, but there would be a town meeting vote needed.
Last year
Yes, but
at
it
town
means
meeting,
sorry, just a sec, but it does mean that
Mr.
it'll
Musters,
have
could
to
you just
wait.
go up to your
Oh,
microphone?
sorry, it
Thank
does mean you'd have to wait a year.
No, it doesn't cause a delay in the overall schedule. Right?
last
The
year at town meeting, we appropriated the funds for the feasibility study and the design. The next step in terms of town meeting is already planned for next year.
Right.
And that would be the money to appropriate to build the building. Last year, we appropriated the funds to do the current year, including the design, which comes after officially getting the approval.
Right. So there are these different phases, and the phase we're at now is the second major phase, and it's called the schematic review. First was a preliminary design plan. We're past that. That was finished last summer, last summer, and then now this is called the PSR schematic review. But the town meeting vote you're referring to would be town meeting 26.
Yep.
After the architects go back and give us some new proposals to look at, both in terms of where the site it will be, where they're proposing putting the Kittredge School, as well as some changes to the footprint inside based on some of the things that they weren't able to do if the school was built sort of up on the hill. They will have another community forum again and give people an opportunity to see the new schematics as well.
Right, and then just to be clear for anybody watching, listening, the advantage of having a free there's multiple advantages to that, having a free footprint. They can place the new building in the most optimal location, can reduce potentially some construction costs. It'll get it as far away from the neighbors as possible. It can move the building, for example, to the street side of the plot and keep it away from the abutters. It also would be in a flatter space, so there's less excavation needed. There's a lot of engineering advantages to having that freedom. Additionally, it's operationally obviously easier if there's no people on the site when you're doing construction, right? So we would avoid any of those kinds of problems. So I'm just saying that there's considerable operational engineering advantages to it.
From the building committee standpoint.
From the building committee standpoint, yes. That's just I'm not rendering an opinion, just a fact. Other thing is that I don't know if you're going to announce this later or not, but as a committee, that committee sent a letter to this committee, right, asking that we make a decision on this by February 7th in order to keep to the MSBA schedule that we're on.
Yes. All right.
And that is it.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right. So we don't have any presentations, no continued business. We're going to move on to new business. We have an overnight field trip request for student council to Hyannis.
Madam Chair, I'd actually like to, I would like to do it in one shot. So I'd like to make do you want to talk about it first and then do all the motions, or can I just make the motions?
You can make a motion.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the school committee, approve the student council trip to the to Hyannis for the annual conference, and to do it on a first read. Students have done this years in the past. They were waiting for the information to be able to do the request, and then there's a registration deadline that we want to meet. So they've done it a number of years. I'm very comfortable knowing that they're going to go and do great, and we could do it on a first read.
And that's because this is happening on March 5th.
Right, and I think registration is going to be quick. Registration is due before we're able to do a second read, or very, very soon after. So.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So my question is, it says the teachers, so the coverage for the teachers, the classes, it says we'll request sub coverage. Do we know, is that in the budget? Do you already have that budgeted?
It will be within the sub-coverage that is budgeted for the high school, so they can accommodate that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I got your back, Cece. Don't you worry.
And I just wanted to make a note. I know this was coming in a little bit later because we're waiting for the costs, but as just a point of order, this can be brought forth without the costs in there for a first read, just so for future reference, it can be brought forward sooner. We can have a first read, and then by the time we get the cost, we can do the second read, just so that we're not having to waive any rules or any preferences. Okay? All right. Is there any other discussion or questions?
Yeah, so just a question. So was the motion to suspend our normal operations and consider this?
Yes.
About dual motion?
Yep.
Okay.
Just the first. Suspend our normal practices.
Oh, the first. Okay. Did we second that yet?
We don't have a second yet.
I'll second that.
All right. Any other discussion on suspending the rules on the first read? Okay, hearing none. We'll vote. Mr. Hicks?
Yes.
Mr. Moskovich?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the student council trip to Hyannis for the MASC conference.
I might as well second that one too.
All right. Any questions or discussion on that?
I would expect a full report about how awesome it is when you get back.
Can I actually give you some info about why this is actually very important this year?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we have Miss Harper, who is our state delegate. So she's a delegate who has been planning this conference.
So if we don't let you go,
it would be very bad.
You don't get to do your job.
There's more. There's more.
Oh, there's more.
There's
Something more
more.
important than that.
Miss Allie Roberts is running for state president.
Oh, wow.
So it's very important that we go.
Good luck.
Yeah.
No, I feel like we have no choice
And now we
but
can
to
go and
approve it.
support her.
That's exciting.
So that's important for Harper and for Allie, but what about you, Cece?
Well, I'm the president, so
She kind of
You don't really need to go with
She's
that.
the biggest fan.
I've been the past 2 years, and I also attended a bunch of the other events. They had a president's dinner. And I also love campaigning. I've helped campaign for Harper. I've helped campaign for McKenna Doobie. And this year I'm going to help campaign for Allie Roberts. So.
You're a campaign genius, apparently.
She is. All right. Any other questions or discussion? All right. Let's vote. Mr. Hicks?
Yes.
Mr. Moskovich?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
No, I'm just kidding. Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Yay.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Fun.
Thanks. All right. And then the next item is not technically new business. It's just informational. We have the Crest and Seam annual reports. You'll have links to those for just reference.
They're linked there for your reference. If you would like a copy, just let Michelle know, and she's happy to send that along to you. But that's part of our agreement partnership with Crest and Seam as being part of those collaboratives. They provide their annual reports to the school committee.
All right. And then you have in your packets the FY 25-26 program of studies for North Andover High School. I'm asking that you review these. If you have any questions, to please, do we want them emailed to Michelle? Okay. If you could email any questions about the program of studies to Michelle, and then we can get those answered before the second read at our next meeting.
And point of, I guess, clarification, Madam Chair, we are supposed to yearly approve the program of studies, and we want to do it before course selection begins.
Correct.
Correct.
So it's accurate for kids to choose from.
Which is when?
Coming up after our next read.
Sometime after our next read.
Very soon.
Soon. So yeah, we need to have our second read at our next meeting. So any questions need to be submitted before then. Okay? All right. Any last public comment? We'll allow another 10 minutes if anybody would like to make public comment.
So I had a question about the external audit that was being done about how we got into this budget situation to begin with. Has that been completed? Are those results public? Where does that stand?
It is completed. It is on the district website. You can view that full report on the district website.
Okay. And if there's questions regarding that, who does the community contact about that audit report?
So it would depend on the question, I suppose. I'd be happy to take those questions and direct them to the person who would be most appropriate to respond to them.
Okay.
So you can certainly email them to me.
Okay, but it's out on the district website.
Yes.
Okay.
In the school committee section.
And the school committee section.
Okay. And when was that completed?
Oh.
August? September?
Yeah.
I think, no.
A letter was sent home to the families after it was completed, directing you to the website as well.
Okay.
I think it was August. Either
You
late
can't
August
hear?
or it was September.
Okay. I didn't recall receiving anything.
Yeah, and we had a school committee discussion on it as well at that meeting directly after it had been published. So, but it is on the school committee website.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I'm sorry. And what is your name?
Oh,
again?
sure. Lauren Mercero, Brentwood Circle.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just to as a reminder, since we did discuss it at the school committee meetings, there's recorded school committee meetings that are also available that's showing the report and discussion, because we did discuss it.
Yes, there are.
I have a question. I'm just wondering, with all of the budget deficits, how are we planning on executing any of the recommendations from the Urban Collaborative Review?
So that's where we put into place the Advisory Committee on Special Education. So that committee is working and that's what we discussed earlier. They're working together on reviewing that, getting additional data from the district, seeing what data Urban Collaborative had used to come up with that, and then working together with many community and district partners on making recommendations to the school committee on how we can improve our special education in collaboration with our general education.
Sure. I'm wondering how that's going to happen when we're in such a deficit, because we're already kind of behind the 8 ball with spending, right? So then if we have additional things that we need to implement in order to improve things, that's going to be really hard.
Right. So I think it's going to come down to our initial steps of doing the evaluations and then seeing what those recommendations are going to be and then how we're going to be able to accommodate those.
So additional internal evaluations? Because we had that whole review done.
So it's going to be the advisory committee coming together. They're working with CPAC, with you can speak with with Ms. O'Neill.
Yeah, and there will be other members of the community.
Yes.
And I don't have it with me. The guidelines that we, as a school committee, established were to examine the report and other relevant data to make recommendations back to the committee about how to prioritize and to plan out what the recommendations that the Urban Collaborative made. So to do a thorough reading of that and figure out what of those do we want to do and how, and to prioritize those and to bring that back to the school committee. And we'll have a first report of that in March.
Okay, and will you be engaging community members?
That'll be part of the ongoing part of the committee, of the advisory committee's work, is to do some listening sessions.
Great, thank
Sorry,
you.
for the record, you should really state your name again.
Oh, I'm again Katie O'Donnell. I live on Bear Hill Road.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim Ramos. I live at 40 Court Street, and I'm an educator, though not in this district, and a parent at Kittredge. And I've been reading everything that I can that you guys have done, and I've been trying to find answers to certain things. And there's a few things, but one thing I just wanted to ask that I thought you might have information on is, I'm trying to understand what the logic of the 3 years is, given that the planned reopening of the school of the new Kittredge is 4 years from now.
So I think that when we get our budget presentation next week, a lot of those questions will be answered. So I'm going to ask that'll be a question I'm going to ask that be addressed at our budget presentation at our January 21st meeting.
Okay.
I guess I would just, I certainly agree with the chair's point of view there. Just I think the question probably has to do with timing of everything, right? And so yes, that's all kind of, there is a logical plan for that, but I just can't elaborate on it right now.
I'm Nancy Daniel Green. I live on Glencrest Drive. I'm a fairly new resident of this town, under 2 years. I'm a grandparent of 2 children at Kittredge School. What I've been hearing in the community and what I heard tonight, something that needs to be improved on in this town and in this school community is transparency and communication. And I was just taken aback that you came to the end of your agenda and then said, oh, we could then take more public comment. You had many constituents here with many opinions, and I think when you stopped the public comment, if you had said, we may have time for more public comment once we finish our agenda, it would have been well received, and people would feel that you are a group that hears them and hears their concerns. But if someone's going to watch this and see that at the end of the meeting, I can see that you are going to upset your constituents that you represent. Thank you.
I will note that it is on the agenda, and agendas are posted publicly, and it is noted that there is additional public comment at the end.
Hi, how are you?
Last comment, please.
My name's Jason Eastman. My 2 daughters go to Kittredge. You heard everything. I just kind of want to leave you with a couple of things. If you've heard everyone, you just got to get a couple more options out there that show you're not just cutting everything. You've heard about just have you explored gradual options? And you haven't mentioned any of the funds. Just a little bit ago, you had a grid up there showing where you're kind of drawing from. But all these other options, it's just cuts, cuts, cuts. So where are the other options to draw funds? How are you thinking about tax increases or tax overrides? That's in May. It's after these decisions. But I think if people hear about gradual options that could lean into potential tax overrides, it might just be better received. So something to think about as you go forward. And also with all of these cut options, you have finite dollars, but nothing's finite. So what's kind of the best and worst case? Could we go through these massive changes and we're still in the same spot? Are we going to make out in the end? So scenario analysis, probabilities, you got to put those behind all these numbers. So again, as you just move forward with this, just more options and just better analysis. And that's kind of all I really want to say there. And the other night, Ms. Lathrop mentioned she has one shot. You know, just take a better shot, please. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make public comment myself, if that's okay.
Please.
Should I do it from over there? Does it matter?
I'll allow you to make
Okay.
it from your seat.
All right. So this is...
As long as it's just addressed to me and not to
Yes.
the public, please.
Yes. So I think it's important this is my opinion, but I think it's important for us as a school committee to make some notes to the public that, we aren't the ones who created the problem, right? We're trying to solve it. And I think everybody needs to keep that in mind, right? We are listening to all the input. We're considering many options. I don't think anybody really wants to close a school, but I think what we are all trying to do is find the best way to educate our kids. And I think some of the comments earlier kind of lost sight of that. And I think one other really important thing that everyone needs to know is that regardless of what we might want to do, right, if we want to ask the community for more money, there's no guarantee they'll give it to us. So if we don't have a plan that meets what the town manager allocated to us, we're not doing our job. We have to have a plan that meets that, whether we want to ask for more or not. And I think that just needs to be noted. Thank you.
Mr. Hicks.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just wanted to, as my own public comment to you, I wanted to remind us that we have an obligation to approve a budget, and then from there it goes to the FinCom and ultimately Select Board to be placed on the warrant for town meeting. But ultimately, any decision about money that we spend needs the approval of town meeting. We are, in many ways, the separation of powers in our town works that way. We get to adopt policy and adopt a budget, but we ultimately need the approval of that body to move forward. And one of the things that I worry about, and as one who likes to plan, is I can hope for having the amount of money we need to do level services, but I also have to plan for what if the town isn't willing to do that as a whole. For all the comments that we heard here tonight, I've also heard from constituents that are very worried about taxes going up and that their unwillingness to do that. So that's just something that I want to keep in mind as a body, that we have an opportunity to approve a budget, but that ultimately there are other things that happen to that after us.
Thank you.
No, I'm in the way.
Okay.
Madam Chair, quickly. So over the past week, I've had the opportunity, I've received 22 emails from residents and teachers of North Andover. 7 of those were addressed to me personally, so I was able to respond to those. I responded to all of them. Some of them I was able to talk to. Some of them I didn't hear from, so wasn't able to. But I just want to thank all of those that reached out, as well as those people that showed up today to express what's happening so we can get this information. And I would encourage others that we are reachable. You can send emails. If you send it to all of us, only the chair will respond. If you send it to individuals, then we can respond. I've been sending my cell phone number out like, I don't know, card, right? So I'm looking for information. I think we all are to get to have those conversations. So appreciate those opportunities.
And I will respond that we've gotten a lot of emails, so it is taking me some time to get back to everyone, but I'm doing my best.
You also had the flu.
I wanted to add something to what Mr. Brown
I also
said.
had the flu.
In the bad old days, or good old days, depending on your point of view, school committees were taxing authorities. The school committee voted on a budget, and the amount of money that required went on the warrant, went on the tax levy, and the school committee was the final authority. And there were a group of people in the state that thought that was a bad idea because it was too easy for school committees to raise the budget, in their opinion, led by a certain Barbara Anderson. And that's where Prop 2.5 came in. At the time, I had recently been the state budget director, and there were people that wanted to have debates about whether this was a good idea or not. And for whatever reason, Barbara Anderson and I wound up debating each other all over the state. And I took the position that since prices normally go up by more than 2.5%, if you limit the increase in the levy to 2.5%, you're basically cutting every municipal budget every year. And Prop 2.5 took away from the school committee the autonomy it had previously had, and for that matter also from the selectmen. So the ultimate authority now on how much money is in town is up to the voters of the town. And it is not within our power. We can ask a lot of people, and in our last meeting, we had a general consensus that we should probably have a third budget, which would be a little bit bigger than what the town asked us to do. But I think people need to understand that ultimately, the only way to spend more money is if the town meeting votes to override Proposition 2.5.
Thank you for that reminder, Mr. Moskovich.
Sorry, Madam Chair, one more, if I might.
We want to wrap up here.
Yeah, I know. This is short. You know, I've been reflecting on everything I've heard from the individual emails, the group emails tonight, everything else. You know, what I hear is that folks, and I went through this myself, as was mentioned earlier, right? People love Kittredge, but they love Kittredge because of the people in it, the staff in it, the wonderful job they do. I don't think anybody loves that building. And I think that we all need to keep that in mind, that what I think folks are concerned about is trying to keep that part alive.
But please, no.
This is, again, my opinion, but.
Well, we'll have further discussion amongst the committee once the budget presentations are given to us fully, and we'll be able to have a more in-depth discussion. All right, so given that, our budget presentation and next meeting is January 21st. Again, that will be in the North Andover High School auditorium.
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Hicks?
Yes.
Mr. Moskovich?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
And I vote yes. We are adjourned.